write this story to help explain how and why I ended up where I am today. The first thoughts that come to my head, I will put on paper. So let whoever is reading this know that it's true.
Dominique was the baby, so he had it easy. My mom and dad both spoiled him very, very much so. And I got in trouble for everything. And then Day, he wasn't allowed to do much either, but he was allowed to do a little more than me. And then Dominique came along and he could do whatever he wanted. So it just, and I ask my mom and dad about that all the time, like, what happened? And they're like, shh, by the third kid, we was done. So I guess that's just how it goes.
Dominique was the youngest kid, so the older sister, Dana, thought Dominique is a spoiled brat. Dominique never got in trouble for anything. Dominique could get away with this. Dominique could get away with that. Dominique's older brother, he's real laid back, David. He would agree with Dana on some things, but it didn't bother him like it did Dana. So Dana teased Dominique a lot about how he was able to get away with things that she wasn't able to get away with because she was the oldest and he's the youngest and he could do no wrong. They had a really close relationship. They are very close siblings. I remember their dad telling them, and we taught them that from a young age, to always stay close. No matter what, their brother and sister, no matter what happens, their brother and sister, don't let anybody or anything come between them, and they did that.
And as we got older, even though I was out of the house, he would call me all the time. So I remember one night he called me, and he was in high school, and he's like, Dana, I need you. And it was pretty late. And I'm like, where are you at? And he told me the street to come on. And I'm driving down the street, and he's like, I can see you. And I didn't see anybody on the street. The next thing I know, this boy comes rolling up out of some bushes and hops in the car and just tells me to drive. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, his girlfriend's mom had came home and caught him, and he just ran out, hid under some bushes, waited for me to get there, hopped in the car, and we took off. So, all the time, he was always calling for something, always doing something. So
all of our kids are practical jokers, more so Dana and Dominique versus Lil Day. But Lil Day, they teased him. But they all had great sense of humor, and they all could be in a room together and clowning on somebody, and they don't even know they're being clowned on, but those siblings are having a good time at someone else's expense, but never in a mean-spirited way. They would even clown on me and their dad, but always in a fun-loving way.
He would, and also just be a little practical joker. He liked to, one time he dressed up, he knew I was running late for work, and he hid in my closet and put a mask on, and as I opened the closet, there he was, and he scared me, and I pushed him, and he laughed about that even when he's an adult, he still laughed about that, and we all found it funny. So everything about Dominique will put a smile on your face. He was not a troubled child ever. Never backtalked me, never disrespected me or his mom. And I say that with honesty. He was just a really, really good kid. One I was proud to be his father.
Dominique went to school, we think now, looking back, from first grade on, because he was a social butterfly. Dominique never wanted to miss a day of school. When he got to school, he wasn't a troublemaker kid. He was the class clown.
The most well-behaved kid. I almost never got in trouble. Dom, as far as together, I really nothing come off the top of my head. As far as Dominique, he used to always get kicked off the school bus. He just, I don't know. He's always, as far as what we heard from his teacher and stuff, he was the class clown and stuff. Everybody always loved him. But he, talked too much and act up on the school bus. So my parents would have to take him to school. It seemed like every other week.
There were literally so many moments that me and Dom shared that, especially on the back of the bus. It would get to the point where, we go back and forth clowning each other. And I would almost be in tears sometimes. Some of the jokes, he'd crack on me or I crack him on him. It's one of the things I always enjoyed is when Dom would come over my house, we would record music. My little brother, he was probably 7 or 8 at the time. And my mom always got on him by keeping lotion on. So anyways, Dom would come over and he called my little brother Krusty Krab. And my little brother would go in on Dom, call him Lemon Lips, because, you know, Dom had big lips. So, I mean, they would just go back and forth the whole time I was there. And, I mean, that was something I enjoyed. You know, one of your friends could come in. He looks out for your little brother the same way that I did. But, you know, at the same time, they share that brother rivalry where they could just crack jokes on each other. And, I mean, that was the funniest thing.
He was, out of all our children, the kid that wanted to sleep with mama. And his brother and sister teased him all the way up until his passing that he slept with me till he was 12, and that's not true. He was a little boy, but they teased him about that. He always was like, "Mommy, mommy, mommy," and they say, "Yeah, mommy, mommy, mommy." Still sleeps with mommy.
My mom likes to deny it, but Dominique was in my mom's room for forever. She babied him, and she will say that she didn't, but Dominique was in there.
For the most part, he didn't get in trouble much because he was the baby. He got away with everything. I don't know. Definitely a mama's boy, but at the same time, I had my dad's heart too.
He really did like to sleep with me, and his dad worked nights, so Dominique would come and sleep in my bed, at the foot of my bed, and I tell him, like, you know, you're a big boy now, you can sleep in your room, and so when your dad comes home, you'll have to go to your room. And he's like, but I'll just sleep here until dad comes and you can just wake me up. So, and I did that. I would let him sleep with me, and when I knew it was time for his dad to come home, I would wake him up and put him back in his bed.
When I would come home from work, he'd be in my bed with his mom, and I would tell him, time to get out of bed, you know, sneaking in the bed with Kayla, his mom.
When he got older, he would still, you know, if he felt bad or anything, he was mama's baby. So, you know, she would just cater to him. And if I wanted something, I would try to get it through Dominique. I'd be like, Dominique, go ask mom. And he'd be like, no, you do it. And I'm like, no, because if I ask, she'll tell me no. But if you ask, she'll say yes. And then I remember when I told him that when he was a kid, then he would be like, Dana said to ask you. And I'm like, no, don't put my name.
He was 21. He came to me, and I was laying in my bedroom watching TV, and he came to my doorway, and Oliver Herger says, Mommy, can I sleep with you? And I was like, oh, Dominique, yeah, you haven't said that forever. It's it's a good memory.
A lot of times Dominique and Mom and Dad had to work, and it was just as easy for me to pick up Dominique because it was on the way to the field. So I'd pick my son up, Cody, and we'd stop by and pick Dominique up. And we'd all load in my pickup truck with my daughter, and a lot of times, Dominique's older brother, David, he would go with us. And we'd all load in my pickup truck and go over to the Shiloh football field and hang out over to the football field, and they'd practice and run. And Dominique always wanted to be the quarterback. And my son and Cody and Dominique formed a special friendship.
He was 13, I think. And Dominique and Cody were great friends. I mean, Cody was at my house every day. If he wasn't at my house, Dominique was at his house. We were great friends, close to to Cody's parents. And Cody passed away from complications from a tonsillectomy surgery.
Everything went fine. He came out fine, and he was. I remember they wrote him out, and he gave a thumbs up, like kind of grinning, gave a thumbs up, and smiled, and then it was outpatient surgery, and.
Cody had told Dominique that he was afraid to have his tonsils out. Not, no specific reason other than he just didn't want to have his tonsils out. So when Cody passed, there was a mistake in a prescription that was given to Cody, and he overdosed that Saturday morning. When we found out that Cody had passed and went to Cody's house to confirm, and we actually confirmed it, we had to come back and tell Dominique that Cody was gone to heaven.
Medicine that he took, that he was given, that he was prescribed. I don't know exactly what happened, but I just know that he went to sleep and never woke up.
At that time, Domonique, he was in disbelief. He was 12 years old. He was sitting there playing a video game in his room. When we told him, we asked him, was he okay? Did he need to talk? He didn't cry. He teared up, but he didn't burst out in tears. He just kind of like, I'm okay. I'm going to finish playing my video game.
And it affected Domonique greatly, and he went to a state of, as we look back now, it was not only was it grieving, but yeah, I think it affected Domonique in a way that he needed counseling.
He said Domonique visited Cody's grave on the anniversary of his death and Cody's birthday for the last 10 years.
You know, we would find bottles in his room. And then again, this was like 19, 20 years old, maybe 21. So like that gap from 13 to 20, it was really nothing bad. It's kind of just nothing I can recall. I saw it when the marijuana use. I would ask him, "What are you on?" I know you're on something, but just because of his gait, his eyes, watering, or you just see it. Well, that age, they don't think marijuana's a big deal. So he would admit it, and I would threaten him, and he would stop. Man, Domonique was such a good kid. I'd always give him the benefit of the doubt.
There was a time when Domonique was talking to me, and he could hardly stand up. So he's not drunk, but he is really, really high, and it's not. And of course, then he's saying, "Mom, I just had a little weed." I'm like, "No, that's not weed. That's something else, and it's not alcohol because I don't smell it. It's something else." And it was pills, and that was then again the Xanax, Xanny bars is what they called it.
For those who think that marijuana and other so-called less addictive drugs are not gateways, Domonique himself told us that it's a gateway. He said once you get that high, you're always seeking another high. He said, and he would say it would be a stronghold on it. It would just have you. No matter how much you try to get away from it, it was on. He admitted it. It was one of those things that he couldn't get away from.
I'm an addict, full-blown heroin addict. It has taken my soul, my heart, my mind, my passion, and my life away.
My granny would probably be the equivalent of Big Mama from Soul Food, the movie. She was the matriarch of the family, so she made sure that all of the family got together every Sunday for Sunday dinner. We used to celebrate everybody's birthday, so all the January birthdays, we go out to dinner for them, and we did it every month. We did a lot of things as a family, and she would be hard on Domonique, but in a very loving way. So she would get on him about his grades or staying in school. And I remember she was against tattoos, and he went and got his first tattoo, but he got a scripture, and that was the way that he got my granny to be okay with it.
His granny passed on top of that. I think it's just when everything started, to like explode on him, because he kept all that inside.
When Granny passed away, a lot in the family changed for the negative, not for the better.
I was 8 months pregnant, almost 8 months pregnant, and he had told me he was going to the store to get something to eat, and I fell asleep. So when I woke up, I heard like a rattling coming from the living room. And it was him. He had overdosed, and at that point I knew he had tried heroin, but I didn't know like he was using daily and steadily using. So I was still pregnant, and then whenever he overdosed, it's when it came to light, like there's a problem, it's not okay. That was the first time we really understood how serious his problem was.
My cell phone rang, and it was Taylor, Domonique's girlfriend, She's calling and she's frantic and she's telling me, Miss Kayla, you got to come quick. There's something wrong with Domonique. And I'm jumping up out of bed. It's 2:45 in the morning. My husband's laying beside me. He's, what's going on? And Taylor's telling me that we need to get to the hospital. Something's wrong with Domonique. She doesn't know what. She couldn't wake him up. When the paramedics come, they're asking all kinds of questions. They take one look at Domonique's pupils, and they realize that it's a heroin overdose because he has pinpoint pupils. Now, we only learned all of this after the fact. They finally tell us that he's overdosed on heroin. So they shoot him with Narcan, bring him back, so he's responsive before they ever leave him, bring him out of his apartment and take him to UK. When they come and tell us that Dominique's overdosed on heroin, we are all in shock.
As a dad, I'm not wanting to lose my son. I argued with him. Well, of course, he didn't want to hear that. And he's on a gurney, he coming out of it. I was ready to pop him in the head. But I did it because I loved him so much, and I didn't want him to die. And, I had never known him to overdose. This is all new to me. Not my child. I mean, overdose. This don't even happen in our family.
The next day, that's all I can do is research. I want to know what heroin is. I want to know what it looks like. I want to know how they use it. I want to know what they feel like when they use it. I want to know what they feel like when they're coming off of it. I want to know everything there is to know about heroin.
My other son, David's best friend, talked him into taking heroin. And it was a young man that we all liked, and we didn't think that he would ever do that kind of thing. And he went to college with my son, David, and he got hold of Domonique and said, "Come on, you need to try it." And it's actually in Dominique's journal that I read at his funeral. He said after that one time of trying heroin, he was a complete, full-blown heroin addict. And that was the beginning of the end of Domonique.
My brother friend who looked at me as a little brother put me on this shit. I was weary about the whole thing. Needles and heroin had never been my type of thing, but I remember his exact words to me. "Don't worry, I'll take care of you."
They had just broke my water, so I sent the message. Nick comes running back upstairs thinking I'm getting ready to push. He would not leave my side. My mom had to sneak him in some food. She was like, "If you want to eat, come out here." I think the only time Nick really left is he went out to the lobby to eat for like 5 minutes. He inhaled this burger and came right back in. And it was just me and Nick in the room when I had her. I don't know. He just never left. He was always there.
He was a great father. I just remember how excited he was the big thing. And it's almost like he had that spark back into him from what I could tell. And, I remember we had plenty of conversations where, he talked about he's trying to get a job and, he wants to do better. And when, he had a kid, I just know he was trying to do the best he could. He put Danity before anything, and he was a great father.
When Danity was born, the smile on his face was as big as all outdoors. He adored her from the first time he laid eyes on her. She became Daddy's little girl.
I was at the hospital when Dom did have his daughter. I know the first time when he first laid eyes on her, you could just see, especially with me being in that spot, having daughters, I could just see in his face, knew exactly how he was feeling. Like from that moment on, it just changed his whole life, changed his world. Just, I don't know, he's like the apple of his eye, Danity, and you can see the love for his daughter that he had.
No way in hell would I ever pick up some heroin again. That lasted about a week. 2 months later, my beautiful baby girl, Domonique Greene, was born.
So growing up in my house, my dad has always been the provider. Even though my mom worked, my dad was, really the main provider, and always instilled that in my brothers, that they had to be the men of the house, the head of the household, that they were the leaders of the house. So Domonique took that very seriously. And when he found out that Taylor was pregnant and he was going to have a little baby, he was very concerned about making sure he had a job, making sure they had their own place, making sure that Taylor was taken care of, and he doted on her whole pregnancy, did everything for her. She didn't have to lift a finger. He didn't want her to stress about anything. He was making sure that he, if he had to work 2 or 3 jobs, he was going to do that. Make sure that the baby, that she had diapers and milk. So it's just very important to him that he be able to do those things for the baby.
As a dad, he was amazing. Like there was times when he couldn't provide fully financially, but he never ever he never ever would neglect Danity for anything, even in the midst of his addiction. Like she always came first.
Domonique was was a driver for Jimmy John's, and he got into a car accident. So this is after the birth of Danity. He got into a car accident and he totaled the car. Well, that brought on a whole new level of stress. Now he's a driver for Jimmy John's. He's wrecked his car, and now he has no transportation, and he's going to lose his job because he doesn't have a way to work. Shortly after that, Domonique is becoming very depressed. I can't get a job. I don't have a car. Now I ain't got no money. I got a baby to take care of. Things are never going to get any better. A week or so later, Domonique overdosed again on heroin.
Stress is building. I'm fearing of becoming a father. I fear of not being able to provide for my family. I mask my fears and insecurities into doing heroin. It takes away my problems, but only for a moment. This is where things start to get really ugly.
He had gotten back in a program at the Community Action where they were going to teach him interviewing skills and other life skills, and help him with a resume building and going to school for a trade. And he was really excited about that too. This is all the 2 weeks before he overdosed.
He got a new job that he was so ecstatic about. All he wanted to do was work and provide for his family. So he started work at the lumber supply. Then he got involved with the Charles Young Center, where they were helping him get his GED. I'm not exactly sure of everything that the program set up for, but I know that he said that he was getting his GED, working. He was really, really, really trying. But I don't know.
The Wednesday before he overdosed, I was in my room watching TV, and he came to my room and he laid on my chest. I'm laying on bed watching TV, and he lays down on my chest and he says, "Mama, I am so happy." And I said, "Oh, honey, I'm so happy. Yeah, I told you everything's gonna be okay." And he says, "Yeah, you did." He said, I appreciate everything you and Dad did for me and have done for me. And everything's gonna, work out. It's looking up. I'm gonna have my own money. I'm gonna buy my own car. I'm gonna be able to take care of Danity. This was that Wednesday.
I love my family. I know it was time to get myself together, because now it's no more games. I have to step up and be the man I know I can be. All you need is me. The devils in my head are screaming, "We won't let you go."
So I had seen Domonique at 1:45. I was getting dressed. He had come up to my room, asked me what I was doing. I said, "Hey, I'm headed out. Taylor's going to practice on my hair." He had Danity in his arms. He said, "Oh, okay, Ma. Well, I'll see you later. I'm going to feed Danity lunch." Gave me a kiss on the jaw, said, "I love you." I said, "I love you, honey, and I'll see you later." That's the last time I saw Domonique conscious.
I was upstairs, And we have 3 levels. Domonique and Taylor stayed in our basement. I was upstairs, and I knew Domonique had Danity downstairs, and I heard him singing, I heard him fixing her food and everything, and so I was there watching TV on the bed, just kind of watching TV. So about an hour later, I go downstairs to the den, still watching TV, and it's quiet downstairs. I'm not thinking anything. So when Taylor hits the key to come in, I hear Danity say, "Mommy, that's my mommy."
When I came home, I was talking to his dad upstairs, and we heard Danity downstairs. You know, she was like, "Mama, Mama." So Mr. David opened the door to the basement. He was like, "Nick, I got the baby."
I said, "Come on, baby, come on." And she's walking up the steps. I said, "Domonique, I got her." And she's coming up the steps. You know, she barely walk. I said, "Domonique, I got Danity," and he didn't speak. I said, "No, he's not in the bathroom." So when I said, "Dominique," Danity stopped and went back down the steps and sat down. So I'm going downstairs. I said, "Man, why is he letting her by herself?" I'm like, "Dominique," I turned my head, looking towards the bathroom downstairs. And as I was going to take my next step, there he was on the bottom step. And I jumped over him. And Danity was sitting on his chest.
Danity was just sitting beside him, you know, thinking he was asleep, playing with him. And then after that, everything was such a rush. I remember I started CPR after we called the ambulance, and then his dad took over so I could go let them in.
So I'm raising him up. I was like, "Talk to me, son. Talk to me, son." And I'm pushing, and this stuff started coming out of his nose that I'd never seen before. And he looks at me. He coughs and looks at me, and thank God, I'm thinking he's surviving, you know. And then he goes limp in my arms again. I was like, "Come on, Dominique, come on." I lay him down, and I kept administering the CPR.
I get down there, there's paramedics all around, they're working on Domonique. In my mind then, I kind of figured it wasn't going to be a good outcome. Domonique had overdosed 5 times in the last year and a half. Usually when I get home, or if I've come up on him, I've seen him, he's already alert. This time he wasn't alert. His eyes wasn't open, and they had a machine. They had trached him, and they had a machine pumping for him. So I'm still not thinking Dominique's going to die. I'm just thinking Domonique is going to possibly end up in a coma or aspirated, and he has pneumonia. He's going to end up in the hospital. That's my only thought.
I just thought it was, you know, like the other times. I thought that I was going to go to the hospital and he was going to wake up and he was going to say he was sorry and everything. So I was mad. And I remember talking to his mom, and I was like, I can't believe it. I can't believe this. And all she kept saying is, "Get to the hospital."
And I'm sitting there. All 5 times before, a nurse always came and got us. Like, he's in room so-and-so. And I'll go in there, he would look at us in shame, you know. This time, a little chaplain comes. I'm like, at first I thought it was a nurse. And she grabs me. So, "You the dad?" I said, "Yes, man." She said, "Come follow me." And she sits me in this little room. I'm like, "Well, where's he at? What room's he in?" She kind of looks at me. She said, "Well, it's really, really, really bad." I said, "Okay." Still feeling optimistic. But at the same time, I was preparing myself.
I could immediately hear in his voice that he just, I don't know, it sounded different than how my dad sounds. He just said, "My brother's at the hospital and it doesn't look good." I immediately just said, "I'll be right there." Anytime I would get a call from my mom or dad, I always had that fear that my brother overdosed again. It was always that fear.
They take him to UK and they work on him. By the time I get there, I'm headed through the door and I get the phone call. That he didn't make it.
And I looked at her and I immediately just grabbed her underneath the arm, and she knew then, and she collapsed. She just collapsed in my arm and screamed. And I just held on to her. And I said, "Honey, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay." And I kept telling her, "He's not suffering no more." I said, "Dominique was not living. He wasn't living. He was."
I called my mom, and when she picked up the phone, her words were, "He's gone," and I knew then. I mean, I knew it was Domonique.
My brother's laying on the table, and I just knew he was gone. My uncle grabbed me, and I just cried.
When they walked me to the room and I saw him, he had one little eye open and everything, and a little tear, you could tell he had cried or something. And all I could think, my feeling was, well, you don't have to suffer no more. I'm sorry I couldn't keep you from this, Domonique.
And I just remember feeling devastated. You really can't prepare yourself. I mean, you try to. You might be thinking that, when you see somebody overdose so many times, you know that in the back of your mind that they can't keep on, that eventually they might not make it, but still when it happens, you're still like, no, not Domonique.
They weren't able to save him, and he ended up, it wasn't a good outcome. He ended up passing away from an overdose, and later we found out from the coroner's office that it was a heroin overdose laced with fentanyl, and the fentanyl is what killed him.
And my brother, he came over and hugged me, and we both were just crying because that's our baby brother, and there was nothing that we could do. We thought about thinking about all the times leading up to then that we wish we could have said something different or just done any little thing different so that he would still be here.
Like, it makes me feel like I'm responsible. As a big brother, I should have been able to protect him. Instead, I brought this person into his life which would do something so evil, and I don't know.
Domonique, you are more than your addiction. We will fight for you. Your memory will not be in vain.
There are no more, people say, you're having a great day. There are no more great days. You have each day where you just cope. There's days when you laugh and joke and everything, and then boom, just like that, Dominique's gone. And that's all the time. We don't walk around with a sad face. We get sad, we excuse ourselves. We don't want to be downers, or we don't want people to look at us like, oh, I'm so sorry for them. So when they see us, we're in a positive light. But I tell people, this stuff is real, and it hurts every single day, every day.
After Domonique passed away from the heroin overdose, immediately, even in our pain and grief of losing Domonique, we realized that heroin is a huge epidemic in our country now. And so without a second thought, we immediately thought we need to do something in memory of Domonique so that his passing will not be in vain. We decided to start a foundation in Domonique's memory, and it's called the Domonique Jason Greene Foundation. And the mission of the foundation is, to offer help for heroin addiction. The first thing we want to is to get heroin addiction recognized as a disease that it is, and remove the stigma of heroin as just a junkie, and they can help their behavior and they can quit when they want to. They're just being selfish. No, it's a brain disorder, and we need to have it recognized as a disease. That's one of the first missions of the foundation as well. Also is to push for stronger legislation to hold persons responsible criminally for the trafficking and distribution and selling of drugs, of heroin, that leads to overdose deaths. We want people held accountable for that. We've had an awareness walk in the local community. On December 12th, we had a heroin awareness walk in Dominique's memory. And we had a good turnout, trying to get some exposure, trying to make everybody aware that heroin is in our community. And it's not just our problem, it's not just our kids' problem, it's everybody's problem.
I don't want other parents and loved ones to feel what we've gone through. So that's my calling to, and, you know, even though it hurts every day, we're still grieving. You know, you put your pants up, you wipe your tears, and you get back out on the battlefield and tell people, hey, it's out there. And unlike these other drugs, this one, you try it one time and you're chasing it until you're dead. Until you're dead.